Lock-on and impact questions. First up, lock-on questions. A lock-on question maintains the flow of natural conversation while providing a means to steer the discussion in certain directions. By using a lock-on question, you can zero in on a particular point of interest and direct the prospect's attention to that point. This saves you time and energy and ultimately provides the prospect with a solution in a shorter amount of time. Another benefit of the lock-on question is its ability to clarify the thoughts and feelings of your prospect. Often in conversation, prospects will use words and phrases such as quality, partnership, or value without really defining or qualifying them. Lock-on questions enable a rep to get into a prospect's head to determine what's really meant. Now, the business world is dominated by buzzwords, acronyms, and jargon. Words are often used with little or no meaning attached to them, to the point where sometimes even the prospect doesn't know what his own words may exactly mean. Through your use of lock-on questions, you have the incredible opportunity to hear prospects articulate their own problems and expand on their own ideas. Dartnell research found that prospects verbalize their real concerns and problems only 20% of the time, preferring instead to purposely or inadvertently conceal issues that might reveal vulnerability. If you use lock-on questions, though, you can politely force prospects to open up. Instead of becoming bogged down in jargon and superficiality, the conversation comes to be one of facts and experiences that really matter. You can then use the information gained to tap into the prospect's emotions, beliefs, and values through impact and vision questions. Now, here are some words and phrases that can be easily used to create lock-on questions. Trying to, dealing with, problems, concern or concerns, hopeful, unclear, stressful, seeking, needs, improvement, struggling, having difficulties, challenges, afraid, frustrated, doubts, searching, looking for, goals. These words and others like them signal that a prospect's needs are not being completely met. They allow you to focus on the areas of primary concern and uncover ways to address those concerns. The words are almost all revealing of emotions and indicate a realization that there is a problem to be solved. After identifying these words and using lock-on questions to discover the problems, you can present yourself as the solution provider. Your prospect will be grateful that you have isolated the problem and helped to create the solution. After your refined use of one or more lock-on questions, you will be seen as a valuable, insightful partner and someone worthy of the prospect's trust, one clearly setting themselves apart from run-of-the-mill types. There are other indicators prospects use that can be locked on and turned into great questions. One example is the use of the terms we or us. It may seem obvious, but anytime a prospect uses the editorial we or other plural pronouns, you know that there is more than one decision maker and or more than one person who recognizes the underlying problem, like a spouse or a partner. These are great words to lock on to by asking, I noticed we use the term we, Bart. Who else is involved in this matter? The key to using lock-on questions successfully is to listen closely to what your prospects say and then ask them questions filled with nothing other than their own words. When prospects give you these key words, they have opened the door for you to enter their minds. You should not feel like you're prying or being nosy. Prospects want to talk about problems, frustrations, and concerns, but often simply do not know how to bring them up in conversation without perhaps sounding like they feel they're in need of a crutch. Just like most other question types, lock-on questions are not designed to be used continuously or repetitiously in a given conversational setting. They should be used just sparingly. A conversation generously dosed with lock-on questions would seem false, insincere, and uncomfortable for a prospect and would impede you from following the logical progression of the dialogue. Owing to their personal nature, lock-on questions should also not be used at the very beginning of a relationship. A prospect faced with lock-on questions after just meeting you might think you're being insincere or even sarcastic or judgmental. Lock-on questions used too frequently can also make a prospect feel as if he's being interrogated. You should make sure that you understand these conditions and recommendations before you engage in lock-on questioning, and maybe keep them out of your typical prospect dialogue until you're more comfortable and at home with them. Use lock-on questions when you have good rapport established with the prospect and have demonstrated understanding or empathy toward him. You have demonstrated a sincere desire to connect with the prospect. You show respect for the level of information your prospect feels comfortable sharing with you. You avoid problems to which you cannot offer a solution, and you focus on problems competing offers are unable to address. Once you understand and accept these proven guidelines for using lock-on questions, you are ready to try this technique with prospects. Also, if you feel lock-on questions will be viewed as too direct, you can use buffer statements to preface your question. Some examples of buffer statements include, help me understand. When you say the word thus and such, or could you clarify for me? Or what's an example of that comes to mind? Please be advised that lock-on questions cannot be effective if you do not listen to the replies of your prospects. In all walks of life, too many people have fallen into the habit of not listening to the answers received to question. It's an easy and natural trap to fall into. Too often, instead of listening, we're thinking of our next question. Lock-on questions not only force you to listen, they also take the pressure off of you to think of another question. You'll find that if you listen well to your prospect's reply, the next question will appear right before you. We've now come to the most interesting categorical consideration of C.A.R.S, the 3 stages of prospect commitment. Those 3 stages are should, want to, and have to. Within the should phase, the prospect doesn't have the desire or impetus to change and doesn't see the need for change. During the want to phase, the prospect has an urge to change, wants to change, and recognizes the need to change, but resists taking action because it's not sufficiently imperative. In the have to phase, the prospect may be up against a wall and actually stands ready to make a change they've come to view as essential and necessary. At this time, they're as willing as they can get to embrace a best fit solution. In order to evaluate the prospect in the situation, we've next established the 3 primary means of evaluating prospect commitment within each of the 3 stages. 1, prospect behavior, 2, words and phrases to listen for, and 3, what you can do at each stage and actions you can take. Regarding the prospect behavior aspect, in the should phase, the prospect responds to your questions with vague answers. The prospect doesn't recognize that they have a problem. And rather than answering your questions, the prospect lets you talk. Now, during the prospect's want to phase, the prospect will willingly share personal and/or professional problems, frustrations, and limitations. Although the prospect recognizes there is a problem, they're not yet ready to take action to remedy the situation. Now, prospect behavior during the has to or must phase includes the prospect realizing that the benefits of change outweigh the risks of remaining in the current situation. The prospect evidences eagerness to talk about situations and solutions. Only about 10% of prospects will arrive in the have to must phase on their own. Others will need the rep's guidance to get there. Now, as far as keywords and phrases to listen for within the should phase, the prospect will use Words such as maybe and we'll see and not right now and I'm too busy and other stalling words and phrases. Words you'll hear during the prospect's want to phase include thinking about, I would like to, I really need to, I'm looking at, I want to, I probably should, and other more acquiescent terms. Prospect behavior terminology used during the have to, must phase will include must, will, definitely, have to, can't afford not to, and we're ready. Regarding which actions to take, during the should phase, seek to determine why the prospect lacks desire. Maybe the problem is not affecting them directly. There is, after all, not always an opportunity to be had. Actions during the prospect's wants to phase can include refraining from pushing a sign up as you'll only meet resistance. Instead, seek to help the prospect uncover their own pain and motivations to change, and then use those to get the prospect to the have to or must stage. One way to do this is to help them see how the benefits and ROI outweigh the costs of their current situation. If you encounter a prospect already at the have to or must stage, that means that their situation makes their need for change acute and that they have probably gone ahead on their own and thoroughly considered the C.A.R.S web posted information. Most of what you'll need to do is guide them through the problems they're facing and how your solution can solve those problems. Remember, most prospects will seldom be at the have to must stage when you first meet them. How to use impact questions. It's not enough to just bring your prospect's problems to the surface. There's need also to help your prospect quantify them, that is, to establish them before you get your prospect so that they can get their arms around them. A prospect who doesn't appreciate the size or magnitude of a problem or the consequences if corrective action is not taken will not be motivated to change. The way to achieve this motivation is through the use of the impact question. Impact questions take prospects through the problem, ask them to relive it some, and give thoughtful consideration to how it affects them. The impact question often begins with, for example, coaching a prospect into calculating the financial aspects of how much it's costing them not to change. Using impact questions to encourage change. In the matter of necessary change, human nature dictates that most people are reluctant to change unless their situation demands it, thoroughly disinclined to change, in fact. Even when people face a problem, they usually try to just lightly, temporarily handle it, set it aside somehow, or put it off for now rather than squaring off with it and seeking a way to actually solve it. It is, as has been said, easier to drive around the proverbial pothole than to fill it. So, as a professional rep, it's your primary job to use simple questions to highlight a prospect's problem and then help them discover for themselves the magnitude and other critical aspects of the problem. Too many reps are guilty of jumping on their prospect with an immediate solution before a problem is even mentioned. If this is done, the prospect is denied their opportunity to elaborate or vent. Let your prospect have as much time as they want to lament their situation, as this only increases your background in their problems and challenges and provides you more of what you need to present their optimum solution. Ask questions about the problem, how it's impacting their job, their performance, their bottom line, and similar. Once your prospect has released all of their related frustrations, they'll be much more eager to hear how C.A.R.S can address and solve those problems. Because it's a sobering thing to do and is an exercise most often lacking in stepped guidelines, prospects, in most cases, have never taken the time to analyze their problems or calculate exactly how much a particular issue costs them in time and dollars. If you can take your prospects through that process so that they can figure out for themselves how much money, time, resources, and aggravation is involved in avoiding their problems, they may come to better see how important it is for them to fix them. Once you've taken your prospect through a series of related impact questions and they've come to recognize the need for change, then present them with a brighter picture of their future with C.A.R.S. At this point in your presentation, open-ended vision questions come into play. This question type not only lifts the prospect's spirit, but also positions you, the rep, as the person ready to present just the solution the prospect needs.